after these two interesting stories, I'll move on to the third son.
Yes, the third son, the story is very important, and he's probably the biggest hero of Mahabharata after Arjun, or some say even bigger than Arjun, as in the sense of recall value, Abhimanyu. So, how was Abhimanyu born? There's a very interesting backstory to that. Arjun again moves out on his last part of his pilgrimage and reaches a place called Gokarna. Gokarna is a village, some say the Gokarna near Goa right now, or it may have been another Gokarna. We don't go into that details, but yes, there were some rishis there, and there is a small leap back to when Ulupi and he had his affair. While he was leaving the union from Nagalok, Ulupi had given him a small blessing that you will never be harmed by any river monsters or river beings. Now this will come into effect now in Gokarna, where the rishis are doing some yagyas and some crocodiles and some sea animals are coming and troubling them. So at this point, Arjun is not Arjun anymore. He has taken on a disguise. He is now dressed as Yati. A Yati is a traveling monk. Very interestingly, he could be a traveling monk who can also carry weapons. Or he can be just a monk. So in case of Arjun being a warrior, it didn't look awkward that he was well built and pretty tall and the Arjun, you see. So, and still wearing monk's clothes. So being a Yati, he was considered to be that great, he's a Yati. So Yati comes, and the quick story is that he battles these sea monsters and actually kills 4 of them. As he kills them, these 4 turn into apsaras, and these women obviously disappear from there, and these people start chanting his name out, Yati, Yati. This khabar reaches Dwarka, that there is this great man of prowess who has saved our rishis. And Dwarka, Krishna is sitting there as the Dwarkadhish at this point. So now Arjun moves from there to a place called Prabhas. Prabhas is where Dwarka city is. Prabhas is just outskirts of Dwarka, was at that point. At this place, Krishna meets Arjun. And they both have a conversation where Krishna says, I know who you are. You don't have to hide it from me. And then they embrace and they have a good, they're old friends obviously from childhood, they're first cousins. Kunti is Krishna's Bua, father's sister. So they're pretty close. So now Krishna says, no way are you going anywhere else during your rest of your Vanvas. You're going to come and stay in Dwarka. There is no injunction that you have to stay in this forests only. You have already stayed in few palaces, so
which is fine.
Yeah,
So
you can come and stay in Dwarka. So Arjun pretty happily goes with him, and the story now begins very interesting. Gets interesting in the sense that Krishna brings him in, and there in the court you see Balram is sitting there. Krishna brings in Yati and describes this is a wandering monk who has been to the Himalayas, he's gone across the whole world, he's seen so many things, so many gods, blah blah blah.
Tell them that he is...
Obviously not. He says that you remain in disguise. Obviously that is the condition. And at that point, the Yati or Arjun spots Subhadra. And Subhadra spots Arjun. और उनका आंखों में प्यार हो जाता है. And Krishna obviously realizes this. Obviously he's engineered the whole thing. So now he tells Balram that Yati is so knowledgeable, why don't we keep him in our Dwarka for some time? So Balram is fine. He says, yes, why not? So he says that I have an idea. Just outside Subhadra's palace, there is a small Upavan, an Udyan. So why doesn't he stay there? Subhadra can look after him as his tradition. The royalties, family, daughters, etc. look after the Yatis. Balram in his simple naivete, he says fine. And whatever happens, Subhadra and Yati realize who they are each to each other. Subhadra now is almost in tears because she comes to know that Balram has betrothed her, nearly betrothed her, is considering betrothing her to Duryodhan. So this is a shock to Subhadra. I don't want to marry that brute. So she goes and cries to Krishna. And now Krishna says there is a way out. So he plans this whole thing where he will have Balram and the entire Yadava clan go to do puja in the Shiv Mandir, presumably Somnath, which is the closest there. And while that is on, he'll leave a complete chariot with horses there, which Subhadra will get on, and Arjun will sit as Yati inside that, and the abduction will happen as if Subhadra is abducting Yati.
Oh.
They say, how can that be? He says, no, you have to do this, otherwise it's going to be chaos, and make sure Subhadra is holding the reins when you cross Dwarka.
Okay.
After that, what you do is fine. But while you are through Dwarka, Subhadra should be holding the reins. So they go for their mandir journey, and the morning Yati brings the Rath, and Subhadra leaps into the Rath, and she takes the reins, and the two soldiers, there are only two soldiers around there and Sakhis around her. So they start firing, and Arjun has been told, come what may, you are not going to harm anybody. I know your prowess. So Arjun uses his weapon to just break the people's arrows or their bows or their swords. So as the swords are swung, the arrow comes and breaks the sword. So nobody is harmed. Yet Subhadra now takes Arjun out of this place. So this is a very interesting journey. Once they get out of this place, Balram comes to know, some sevaks come and say, this has happened. So Balram now looks at Krishna and says, I am sure you are the cause of this whole thing. So Krishna says, forgive me, brother. And Balram and he become very angry at each other. Balram stops speaking to him. Soon after this, Subhadra and Arjun arrive at finally he's back with his family 12 years later at Indraprastha. They are still living in the small kutia. There are few other kutiyas there. People are still there. And people are pretty happy in their place. Arjun arrives as great celebration. He's brought a wife with him. And soon we realize that Subhadra is pregnant. So now Krishna tells Balram that enough is enough, thou. You must give up this. This is not on. At this point, Balram acquiesces and he says, let's all go and meet my younger sister when she's going to have her son. Another very interesting incident happens at Indraprastha at this time. That is that Arjun arrives, Subhadra is pregnant, at the same time Draupadi also gets pregnant with Arjun's son.
Oh, really? Around the same time?
Yes.
Okay.
Draupadi has been almost in a way waiting for Arjun to come back, because the round, as we had said, was of the 5 people in the beginning. So Yudhishthir had his turn when Arjun went on exile. After that the turn was of Bhim. But Yudhishthir stopped them. He said, no, I want that the progeny should be from both the lineages of my own brothers.
Okay.
So Nakul and Sahadev are from another mother, so their lineage must also continue.
Yeah.
So the elder one of them is Nakul. So the first turn is mine, the second will be Nakul's.
Okay.
So therefore, after Yudhishthir comes Nakul and his son from Draupadi. Then comes Bhima and his son, and then they are waiting for Arjun to arrive.
Okay.
So after that, when Arjun arrives, he stays with Draupadi during this period, and you have his son, Shrutakeerti. So he is Arjun's 4th son, Shrutakeerti. Somewhere it is also mentioned he is also called as Shrutakarma, because there is a confusion, because whether he was the youngest son or whether, because Nakul technically should come after Bhim. So some say that maybe Nakul had the son earlier and Shrutakarma was Arjun's son. Doesn't really matter, because he's a very minor son and we don't really get to know much of the story.
There's not much on the battlefield also.
Yes. Because he is very small, but he goes about and tries to, accordingly, he fights with various people, but he doesn't kill anybody. Arjun kills those people, so he goes with Arjun supposedly. Must have been a very cute father-son scene, which were never revealed in the Mahabharata. And then they say that he used to have horses which were colored like kingfishers, which means that probably they were black and shining, because kingfishers are blackish in colors with rainbow shines on them. And he used to move around and ultimately, supposedly, still not confirmed, because I've been trying to find the source, he is supposedly killed Dushasan's son, who had killed Abhimanyu.
Okay, that's it's kind of a entire circle.
Durmasan was the name of Dushasan's son, who actually hit the last blow on Abhimanyu when he died.
Oh.
Abhimanyu was almost already dead, but then he smashed his head with a gada and killed him. So this heinous crime was done by Dushasan's son, who was also supposedly very young at that time. So then supposed to be that Shrutakeerti had gone and killed him.
But it's not.
I
It's
have
not there in
found
the.
a direct mention of this. It must be. It must have come from some folklore tradition which I have not heard of. Ultimately, Shrutakeerti is killed with the five. All the five Upapandavas were killed by Ashwathama, as we know, on the last day of the battle in the night. And he went very proudly saying that I have avenged your death to Duryodhan, who was lying almost dead. Duryodhan had at that time admonished him and despised him for doing this. And after that, of course, Krishna had cursed him when he had thrown the Brahmastra at Uttara's Garbh.
Okay.
And Parikshit was revived by Krishna, and then the story moves on.
Okay.
So we don't go into that at this point. Arjun's son, Shrutakeerti. But we will come back to the story of Abhimanyu after this.
Yeah.
Okay.
But one thing, as just a lay reader and lover of Mahabharata, the kind of gruesome deaths that Arjun's sons had to go through, all of them perhaps, except Babruahan, it's something that what do we say about that?
Well, this was the biggest battle the universe has seen, the creation has seen. It had to be gruesome.
Yeah, it has to be. But I think the more gruesome part was reserved for him.
Yes, and the most gruesome death is related to the next son that we will talk of.